So this is a Satellite 205 CDS. It looks pretty similar to a Satellite 405 CS. The differences between the two being that number one, this is a Pentium 100 and the 405 CS was a 75, and number two, this has got an 11.3 inch screen, I believe, and this 405 CS had a 10.3 inch screen. But same integrated power supply, same pretty much form factor motherboard. This is just a tad little bit longer, maybe by a quarter of an inch or so. Sound built into it. You got line in and microphone and everything, 2 PC card slots, serial external floppy. I've got the internal CD-ROM drive attached to it, and I've gone ahead and I've re-imaged this thing back to Windows 95, which is what it came with originally. I'm going to go ahead and turn this light off here so we can see the screen a little bit better. This is a CDS, it's a DSTN screen. So, yes, I know, resume failure. I had unplugged it. This one actually, I salvaged parts from a pile of Toshibas that I'm working on, and yeah, I think I have a Toshiba problem. I actually got this working along with 335 and a 330 CDT and CDX as well. So, yeah, which is really cool. The only problems I'm really having, number one, you know, these things have nickel metal hydride standby batteries and CMOS batteries in them that do leak. Underneath these plastics, they are all leaking. So you've got to replace those. So I've built new ones using the old cords just for the CMOS, not the standby. And so this actually can keep the CMOS if I leave it in and let the little nickel metal hydride battery charge. The second problem is the floppy drives. These things use belt-driven floppy drives in this era. They use a 1.25 millimeter FPC connection on them. And I've tried replacing 3 floppy drives so far, belts, and Console 5 actually sells them. And out of the 3 floppy drives I've actually replaced, I haven't been able to get any to work. So the only way I can really get this to work is some of the later floppy enclosures use the 1.00 millimeter FPC, which is what the standard like server slimline floppies used, and I'm able to actually hook up an external floppy. But I will never be able to get an internal floppy so far to run on this thing here. So, but yeah, here you can see I've got Windows 95 running on this thing. People have asked me why 95, why not 98? Well, Toshiba only qualified their little utilities and stuff for these models to actually run under 95. I've tried getting 98 to run, and it is really buggy. Back when I had a 405 CS, which was the P75 model of this, I had all kind of problems with the system just randomly freezing and stuff with 98 on it. So Toshiba told me they never did qualify this unit for 98, so I'm going to just do what I need to do and just leave 95 on it. This is a clone of a drive that I got from a 105 CS that had 95 installed, and so I just installed the specific drivers for this graphics card and for the sound and stuff. So this model pretty much has a Toshiba 95 load on it. Also has Office 97 on it. But, 40 megs of RAM. I was able to rescue a 32 meg memory card out of one of these 115 CSs I have on the floor. And so this thing is pretty much, it's maxed out. The screen works. The inverter doesn't squeal anymore. This little screen tags down here are kind of hard to keep on. But, the thing right here is the little palm clicky thing is a little sticky, so I got to figure out how to deal with that. But this is all fixed with computer reset parts. The inverters, the LCD cables and such, all came from computer reset, and the parts that I'm getting come from all kind of other additional places. So eBay lots. I belong to the Atlanta Historic Computing Society, so I've got all kind of stuff. I'm still looking for a 405 CS or a 400 CS or, one of those particular models, because I actually have 2 ones with dead motherboards down here in perfectly good cases. And I actually have a 3rd one that's disassembled that has a partially working motherboard, but it won't finish posting. So if anybody's got one that's got a working motherboard, I'd be glad to take it off your hands. but that was actually my first Windows laptop ever, was the 405 CS, so I have some fond memories. But this one, this 205 CDS, is pretty darn close to the 405 CS. So I'm gonna finish putting some games and stuff on here, and you know, yeah, it's a crappy DSTN screen, but you know, I love this little thing. So anyway, I've got other systems that I'm going to be fixing up and eventually getting rid of with computer reset parts. I got a 460 CDX down here that's been loved up and has a compact flash hard drive and everything in there. And like I said, the 335 and the 330 CDT and CDX systems, and I believe I have a third one of those coming in that I'm going to fix as well. These 115 CSs are a challenge. The floppy drives are built into the systems, and they have the belt, and I have not had luck fixing the belts and the floppy drives and still having it read the floppy. So I don't know what I'm going to quite do yet. They use the old 1.25 millimeter FPC connection, and none of the Gotex or anything nowadays use the FPC connection at 1.25. Just as a side note, I had this case that I got at Computer Reset that was kind of falling apart, but you know, it's interesting that here's the external floppy connector for these Toshibas. It's a interesting little connector. I don't know what you call it, but the connector coming off of these into the floppy drive, this is the 1.25 millimeter 26 pin FPC. I was able to get an adapter, you know, way back when on eBay that actually went from 1.0 to 1.25, and you can see the size difference between the two. This is a Dell server 1.00 millimeter floppy, and you know, but the problem is this will not fit inside of a floppy enclosure or anything. The adapter is just too big. So I'm trying to figure out, you know, maybe there's somebody that could fabricate just a ribbon cable only FPC adapter or something, you know, that I could use the later more reliable servo driven drives. These particular drives don't have the belt, and they're super duper reliable, and I've actually replaced some in external enclosures with this. Here's another deal. Beige, okay? Beige enclosure, but you see the gray insert. The gray inserts have the interface for the later 1.00 millimeter FPCs. The beige inserts, which is this one right here, actually have the 1.25 millimeter ones just like this. So I have actually been getting these for the systems that have the external floppy connector and replacing, and also getting the gray ones and replacing the internal floppy drives with the servo ones from Dell's. And now at least on this system I can have an external floppy drive and the internal CD drive. But that doesn't help me with these 115 units down here, because they do not have an external floppy connector on them. They only have the internal floppy, and it's a 1.25. So anyway, long ranting story, but I really do appreciate all the parts I've gotten from Computer Reset. They've helped me get a lot of these things running. Now I just need to figure out how to sell and get rid of these things. Half the joy for me is actually fixing them and getting them working again and just having a blast doing it. So, you know, that's just part of my hobby, you know, just like all of you have the same type of hobby. I don't need 20 of these. So, you know, I prefer to keep like a small handful of them that I like, you know, like this one maybe. So anyway, if anybody has any questions about any of this or any suggestions, especially around that FPC conundrum I'm having with the floppy connector, feel free to comment under here and let me know. I really want to try to see if I can get either these particular drives to work again. You know, I get the belt on them just fine. I reassemble them just fine. It's just, you know, and I get them all plugged in and I make sure everything's all plugged back in correctly, but it's just, they will not read. So anybody, and here's the 1.25 millimeter FPC, by the way. So any ideas, throw them underneath, because I'm willing to hear them. So, because I really like to get these 115s up and running with some kind of storage other than just the hard drive. Anyway, thanks a lot, everyone. Have a great one.